We want to discuss the calling of a leader. And we see in Joshua chapter 1, the calling of Joshua. And it's good to learn a few lessons about leadership and the calling of a leader by reading the portion. We'll not read much, but maybe just read the first few verses, maybe up to verse 7. After the death of Moses, verse 1 says, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I'll give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I'll be with you. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Verse 7 says, be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I see three main things about this success that Joshua has been promised. First of all, I see him being encouraged to remember the training he has had, to remember Moses. And in that, it sounds like as long as Moses was alive, Joshua was unknown. He was just an assistant. So it sounds like if you want to be a Joshua, you must also be the humble. God leads people to success, leaders to success who are humble. Number two, I think the key word being emphasized is courageous. That if you truly want to be a successful leader, it will be important that you are courageous. You have courage. Nothing will happen. You will not be able to take people elsewhere to where God wants them to be without having courage. Mind you, to be called a leader means you lead. And what does it mean to lead? Go ahead. Where are you going? From an area of comfort to an area that is unknown. And to get people out of their comfort zone to elsewhere will require a courageous spirit. And I hear Joshua being told, it's not just enough to be humble trainee. It's important that you become somebody, a courageous leader. Then thirdly, I see some emphasis that emphasizes trust in God. Only those who trust in God, the faithful, are likely to have the success that he has actually been promised. Let me just look at verse 1 to 2 again. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. You know, the reason you are being called is because there is a project. You cannot be called to nothingness. You are not called to be a nyapara, just as we is our people. You need to have clarity as to where you are being asked to take these people to. You become a headmaster of a school. You are not being called to maintain the school. The school needs to go places. So you need to assess where you are and where it will be going. You need to know where the previous headmaster had gotten into it up to, and where else you need to be going. Is there a better place beyond where the school is at this time. You are a pastor, you take over the church. You must ask yourself, God has not put me there to maintain, it's to lead. You can't lead by maintaining. You lead by taking courage and moving ahead. And it's important to ask yourself, do you have that clarity of where you are supposed to be taking the people? Moses has been the leader. I'm calling you to take over, but not to do what Moses did, but to take them beyond the Jordan so that they are going to be experiencing new challenges, but also with the possibility of getting to the land they had always thought they would be in. What is required if you are going to be this person? What I hear is that you need to be somebody who can deny self for God to use you. You need to be somebody who agreed to be an assistant of Moses for years, 40 years. Just being sent, do this, do that, learning slowly. And Moses had confidence in him, and God had confidence in him, but he had to be undercover for a long, long time. Somebody who assists, somebody who is not looking for a name. The moment you become like, what matters to you most is the new title, not service, not serving the people you are being asked to lead. My friend, you are not assured of success that God is promising his people. So you need to deny yourself. Don't come for a title. Don't come for the title. Come for service, to help your people to go from where they are to a better place. During that process of humility, one of the things you'll be looking for is accepting training. Moses was a trainer of Joshua. They may not have sat in a class to be told 1, 2, 3, but he is a trainee. He's being told what to do. He's being taught technical how to do military warfare, because remember there are some military exercises which he was involved in, where the work of the old man was to lift his hands, and Joshua was in the real fight. That's part of the training. But there was also training in trusting in God, learning to ask things from God, learning to pray to God, learning to listen to God. And that training is something that is very, very important. So I want to ask you, if you truly want to be a leader, are you investing time learning? Number one, learning from people, finding out why they do what they do and how they do it. Number two, learning by reading materials on the project itself, what you are supposed to be leading in. If you're leading a church, learn about the church. But number three, you don't just watch and read materials. You also experiment and assess. When I did like this, what were the results? Is that a good thing to do? Understanding yourself is part of the training. Doing a SWOT analysis on yourself. What are your strengths for going to this trip, leading these people? What are your strengths that you can use? What are your weaknesses? What opportunities are there to help you go to where you want to go? What are threats that could stop? That's basically all part of preparing yourself for where God wants to take you along the route. Every experience God will allow you away is preparation for the future He intends to give you. So that you need to understand some of the unpalatable, and distasteful experiences are all part of God preparing you for the kind of leadership He wants you to have. And it will be important to ask yourself, do you learn anything from good or negative things that we are experiencing? Because they are part of the training. Moses, my servant, and dead means you have finished your exam, your training has ended. Now it's time to act. But also, what I hear that requires humility is accepting for others to use you. All the glory goes to Moses, but you are the one doing the donkey work. I want to put it in graphic language. Have wide shoulders for others to step on. They will be seen. If you put your shoulders and I stand on top, everybody looking will be seeing me. And they are not aware that you are, without you, I would not be up there. Many people do not want to be used. You can't exploit me. But you need to understand that part of the preparation process is learning to accomplish things. Helping others to accomplish things is a part of the preparation. Have wide shoulders. Be a facilitator. You know, for Paul to become what he became, God gave him a guy called Barnabas, who was called son of encouragement. Barnabas is the one fighting for the apostles to accept Paul. He is the one helping him, break into the fellowship. What would have happened to Paul if there was no Barnabas? But you start the journey, Paul, the journey, when they start their missionary journey, it is Paul and Barnabas. No, it's actually Barnabas and Paul. By the time they are finishing the trip, you no longer talk about Barnabas and Paul. It's now Paul and Barnabas. And from then onwards, we don't even hear of Barnabas. And many of us are not going to be what God wanted us to be as leaders because we are too careful. We really check, am I being exploited? We are so afraid of being exploited that we can't ever achieve anything. Somebody tells you, hey, could you lead this and this and this? He says, no, you are using me. Surely. Don't you know if you get those opportunities, they are helping you to become a better person whom God will use. Please have wide shoulders. As long as it's not hurting you, we're not talking about you accept to be hurt. But if it is work, don't run away from work. Even if nobody recognizes that you are the one who did it, just do it. There's nothing you will do in service of God and mankind that will not be read by God himself. And even if the other people don't recognize it, don't give you any accolades, just do it. I think that's what Joshua did for many years under Moses. And it will be important that you learn that, become a facilitator, who allows the big man to continue being big. But importantly, the project is progressing. Importantly, the people in the project are earning. That's why it was so easy for the people to accept Joshua, because they had seen him being sent around, being used by Moses. If you cannot be used, quote unquote, exploited by others, you might never get opportunity to lead anything yourself. And I think it's important, it will be important that is fully understood. So we are saying the first quality of a person who is going to become like Joshua, I think, is that he has humility to learn quietly. He is humble. But the second thing I want to emphasize is that he is also courageous. He is somebody who is courageous. Let's just look at verse 3. And it says, I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. You know, every place where you set your foot will become yours. Isn't that very interesting? That it can't be yours until you dare. And the first test was serious. Jordan was in the flood stage, which means it will carry you. It's flowing fast, it will carry you. But there's no bridge. And they're supposed to go across the Jordan. And Joshua is supposed to enter into the water with the priests. And hopefully the water will divide up, just like the Red Sea had divided up. And then they'll be able to cross to the other side. Wherever you set your foot, that requires a lot of courage. What about if God fails? What about if it doesn't work? I'll be dead. I'll not even be leading. Somebody says, attempt great things for God, attempt great things for God, and you are going to get great blessings from God. And some of us are so timid that even when God puts an idea in you, it's too big, you feel you can't even try. You will not achieve what God wanted you to achieve. You are told to go to speak to 1,000 people, and you have the only group you've ever spoken to is 10 people. Say, hey, God, don't you want to give me progression from 10 to 100? How can I go to 1,000? If God has given you a conviction, open opportunity, courage requires you go and do it. And as you do it, with God's instruction, He Himself will give you the enablement. So what you're saying is that you will not become a leader like Joshua if you don't take God's advice and learn that setting your foot will require courage. But He's promising, as long as you are willing to trust Him enough to set your foot, then God Himself will ensure that where you have set your foot is something that will become yours. And I don't know whether you can look at your own life and see how many people, how many things, how many experiences, before they happen, you are very, very afraid. You feel like you dare not. Then finally, now, today, it is like an obvious thing. But when you started, you are too afraid of being embarrassed, failing. Now, if you are too afraid of failing, then courage will fail you. Courage is to do what God has asked you to do and leave the results to Him. And that's really one of the things that's happening. Of course, it doesn't mean you do something without proper consultation and research. That is part of what you are going to do in listening to God. Be sure you have done your very best preparing for the project. But preparation, analysis can lead to paralysis, where you overanalyze, never actually doing things. Nothing ever happened by preparation. You must actually finally stop preparation stage and take the courage to do it. Of course, there are fools who just jump without thinking. That's not what you're recommending. But do not spend all your time in analysis, because it will cause you paralysis and you'll never achieve much. Joshua is being encouraged to take courage. And I think that will be very, 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 very important. So, God is promising, if you take courage, I will give you every place where you set your foot. As I promised Moses. Obviously, he's not claiming that you can claim anything. He has put parameters. Is what is within the promise. And even you're not being asked to claim every girl. No. It has to be within God's instructions. But take courage. Once you have assured yourself this is God's direction, take the courage and actually go ahead and do it. Then in verse 4 we read, your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. You see, the boundaries were very clear. It will come from Lebanon in the north, all the way to the Dead Sea in the south. It will come from Mediterranean on the west, all the way to the Hittite country in the east. It was all done. It was a clear direction. And I think what I hear is work within given the limits. You do not go claiming land I never promised Israel or Isaac or Abraham. There is a specific territory. And so even if you talk about courage, it's not foolish courage. It's called courage within limits. And you need to understand that there are people claiming almost anything with the World Health Gospel, go to the level where they want to promise people that they can never get sick. Then they get sick and want to pretend they never got sick. Do not promise things the scriptures don't promise. Operate within the parameters that are given. The land they were to conquer was specific, and it's been listed. Joshua is told this is. So operate. So this courage has to be courage with wisdom. And it will be important to ask yourself whether you have that courage. Work within God's given limits. And you need to ask yourself, do you have core values, biblically based core values, boundaries within which you operate as a leader? In other words, you are willing for your project to fail, for your group to be total failure, if the only way of succeeding is to operate outside the parameters. There must be, every leader must have core values, non-negotiable convictions that he depends on, and he cannot operate with outside them, because he knows God wants me to operate within these boundaries, not outside these boundaries. So even as you talk about courage, we talk about courage within boundaries. But look at verse 5. Verse 5 says, no one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. No one, Joshua is told, will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. He is being reminded. Do you remember Moses? Do you remember fighting the Amorites? Do you remember the wind? That should build your faith. Everybody keeps wondering, how do you trust God? Easy. Once you trust him, yesterday you trusted him for something. Today it has happened as you trusted him. Should build your faith to trust him for tomorrow's item. And Joshua is being told here, the courage we are talking about is a courage based on trust on God. Because of what God has done, you saw it. I was with Moses, did you? If you did, then the God of Moses, the God of Joshua, is your God. I can continually help you in the same way. And as a leader, you need quick wins where you see the hand of God leading you. Don't wait until the full project is over to celebrate. Celebrate quick wins because they build your faith. God took 6 days to create the earth, but he never waited for the full project of creating the earth or creating the universe to finish. Every other day, he said, he looked, assessed what has happened, and he said, it is good. That's a quick win for today. Then tomorrow, again he did something. Again, he didn't wait for the 6th day. He said, it is good. And you need to learn as a leader to identify quick wins. Be thankful for them and let them build your faith and your courage. Because then you are able, that gives you increases your courage to tackle tomorrow's bigger problem. If God helped you yesterday, and He's the same yesterday, today, and forever, you can trust Him to help you tomorrow and today. And I think that's what I hear. If you are going to be a leader, it will be important that as a leader you learn to identify quick wins. If you don't care about them, you don't even notice them. Just feel you just keep getting discouraged about how far you are to the end of the project. And yet you can see on a daily basis there are things that God is doing and you are winning. But it's that one bit in verse 7, no one will be able to stand against you as all the days of your life. So what builds your courage is, as I was with Moses, so I'll be with you. That is history. But what builds your courage also is a commitment from God that there will be enemies, but they will not stand your ground. In other words, don't be surprised when you have challenges along your route in the leadership. But because you are aware, you are told they will be there, but you are told they will not win against you. And I think that's what you need to. That's what needs to give you courage. Number one, the fact that God has been faithful in the past. Number two, because that God has promised to be with you. And I like the words he is given by God. He is told, I will never leave you nor forsake you. But sometimes I wonder, isn't leaving and forsaking synonyms? Until somebody said, no, they don't mean exactly the same thing. God is saying, I'll never leave you, means I cannot leave you temporarily. I'll be with you on a continuous level. At no time, when you're asleep, when you're awake, I'll still be there. When things are going well, when things are going badly, I'll still be there. So he is promising to be with you. That should give you courage. But number two, he is promising not to forsake you. What is to forsake? Give up on you. In other words, it doesn't matter how much you fail or don't operate well. God is promising not only not to leave you, but he will not forsake you. He will be with you to the close of the age, to the end of the project. That should certainly give you courage. Then verse 6 says, be strong. Now that you have heard, I've been with you, I'll be with you like I was with Moses. You know how I was with Moses. I'll be with you irrespective of what challenges you face. Verse 6 tells you, be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I saw to the ancestors to give them. You know, maybe it's similar with Jesus. I'll be with you means Emmanuel. I'll be with you. But I think verse 6 is saying it's God's work, not yours, to complete the project. It's maybe there's a project you are doing. You had a project car. It's been stolen. Now there's no car. It's not your car that is stolen. It's God's car that is stolen. And God was capable of preventing the thief, but he allowed it. So you need to come to where you don't own things yourself. You're only a steward of what God has actually given you. And that will be a very, very important thing. But I think introduces the third importance. So we say the first one is for you to become a leader like Joshua, you need to have humility to learn, training. Number two, we have emphasized you need courage. There's no way you'll be able to conquer new ground without courage. But number three, you need to be somebody who trusts in God. So he is saying in verse 6, be strong and courageous. Why? Because you will lead these people to inherit the land I saw to their ancestors to give them. So it is God's work. I am the one who committed to do it. I'm only using you. In other words, you are an instrument in God's hands. He intends to win the battle himself. He rewards faithfulness and not success. So success is his. But in the meanwhile, all he is asking you to do is not to bring success, but to be faithful. What he has given you to do, are you faithfully doing it or not? So number one, trust God. Why? The work is not yours. The battle is not yours. The battle belongs to God. Could you say the project you are leading is really God's project? You can't be assured of God's presence if you are doing your own things. You are selling drugs or doing things that are destructive, things that God will never sanction. You need first of all to verify in this third one that what you are doing has God's sanction. God wants you to do it. Then he can say that I sought to do this. This is my commitment. I'm going to do it. That's the first thing. Check, are you doing something God has asked you to do? But number two, if you verify that, then remember all God is asking you is for faithfulness. So if you are faithful and yet you fail, do not get discouraged. Try again. Because success and failure is not your area. You need to come to where you trust in God. So as a leader, do you have humility to learn? As a leader, do you tackle issues with courage? Number three, as a leader, are you faithful? Do you trust in God? You take your project as God's project.